Homer Simpson might seem like just a lazy guy eating donuts on a couch, but there's a lot more to him than that. Behind his dough and his belly, he's shaped by his dreams, his failures, and his desperate need to be good enough. To truly get Homer, we need to take a look at the moments that helped make him who he is and see how his need for acceptance affects the way he lives. So, sit back, grab a duff, and let's take a look at the story of Homer Simpson. Homer starts out as just a regular guy with simple dreams. Before all his misadventures, he's just this blue-collar dude living in a house in Springfield. That house is his safe space, his home base, his little slice of suburban America where everything makes sense. His mornings never change. That alarm goes off, and he literally jumps out of bed, throws on that same white shirt, brushes those 3 hairs, and heads to a job that slowly kills his soul. Or, if it's a Saturday, he's grabbing his bowling ball and heading to Barney's Bowlerama. But we don't really see what's going on inside until we look closer at the routine. On the surface, Homer's got it all figured out. Work at the nuclear plant, drinks at Moe's, TV on the couch, fights with Bart, awkward intimacy with Marge, repeat. It's predictable, safe, and for Homer, that safety is everything. But watch any episode from the first few seasons, and you'll notice something. The guy's wound tight, he's not just going through the motions, he's clinging to them like they're the only things keeping him from falling apart. These early episodes quietly build a picture of who Homer really is when nothing's going wrong. On the surface, he's the same, lazy, simple, endlessly hungry. But look closer and you'll notice the cracks. He's wildly insecure, obsessed with keeping things just right, and deeply tied to how others see him. His world doesn't run on luck. It runs on avoiding anything that might make him feel inadequate. The routine, the beer, the couch. It's not just who he is, it's what he uses to keep everything from falling apart. At this point in his story, everything seems solid. The house still standing, the plant's still running, Marge is still there, and the kids are still kids. Beneath it all, Homer's entire identity relies on a fragile system, and it won't take much to tear it down. Something's got to give, and when it does, we'll find out what really happens when being simple and comfortable just isn't an option anymore. Homer's life starts off predictable. Same routine, same town, same dreams of doing as little as possible. But that all shifts when he meets a woman with blue hair at a high school debate and realizes he might actually want something. And hey, if you're into character breakdowns like this, make sure to hit that subscribe button. We've got plenty more deep dives into your favorite animated icons coming up, and trust me, you won't want to miss them. Every hero has that moment when life kicks down their door and forces them to step up. For Homer, it all starts with a woman, a pregnancy test, and a proposal at a miniature golf course. Right from the flashback episodes, we see him standing at the edge of something huge. He's practiced being cool in the mirror so many times, it's almost sad. He finally works up the nerve to actually commit. Marge says yes, and for a moment, Homer's got everything he thought he wanted. Then reality smacks him in the face. Marge gets pregnant with Bart. Homer's working at a mini golf course making minimum wage. They're living in Marge's apartment above her sisters, who hate him. And suddenly, being a cool guy with a hot girlfriend isn't enough anymore. He needs a real job, real money, a real future. So he does what he has to do. He walks up to Mr. Burns's mansion, gets thrown out, begs for work at the nuclear plant, and takes a position he's completely unqualified for. In The Way We Was, we see the Homer before responsibility. Confident, kind of charming in a stupid way, full of dreams about being somebody. In I Married Marge, we see what those dreams cost him. The scene where he burns his letter to Marge, the one where he's telling her he's going to make something of himself, it hits different when you really think about it. He's not burning ambition. He's burning the version of himself that believed he could be more than this. That job at the plant? It's not just employment, it's surrender. And Homer takes it without fully understanding what he's giving up. He just knows Marge needs him to show up, and for the first time in his life, someone actually needs him. This matters because it shows Homer's true strength. When life demands more than he thinks he can give, he doesn't run. He shows up. When the world asks him to sacrifice everything he thought he wanted, he does it without really understanding the weight of it. But here's what he doesn't realize. Getting married and taking that job was the easy part. Living with those choices for the next 30 years? That's the real test. The nuclear plant isn't just a workplace, it's the arena where he'll face everything hard about being an adult. And Mr. Burns isn't just a boss. He's a living reminder of what happens when you stop caring about anything except survival. Homer walks out of that building with a job, a wife, and a future that suddenly feels very small. What he doesn't know, and what he's already starting to feel, is that this is just the start. There will be days when that choice feels like a prison. Days when he wonders what his life could have been. Days when being responsible feels impossible. Because chasing a dream feels one way. Living inside the death of it feels completely different. But for now, none of that matters. He's got the job, the girl, and a kid on the way. His real journey is still to come. After landing the job at the power plant, Homer thinks he's done the hard part. But the reality of adult life brings a new challenge: actually trying. And that's where Homer starts to struggle. Most heroes don't jump into change right away. There's almost always that moment where they pause, where staying in their normal, comfortable life feels easier than stepping into something new. For Homer, it's not some big dramatic moment where he flat out says he can't handle it. It's smaller than that. It's in the way he avoids, cuts corners, and finds every possible shortcut around actual effort. And one of the best places we see that is at work. Homer's Enemy, Season 8, Episode 23. Remember that one? Frank Grimes shows up at the plant, and he's everything Homer isn't. Hardworking, qualified, bitter about how unfair life is. Grimes looks at Homer and sees a man who's failed upward his entire life. A guy who sleeps through shifts, causes safety violations, has literally endangered all of Springfield multiple times, and somehow still has a job, a house, and a family. Grimes works himself to death trying to earn what Homer was just handed, and it breaks him. The whole episode is Grimes screaming the question we're all thinking. How does Homer get away with this? And the answer? Homer doesn't think about it. That's his superpower. While everyone else is grinding away, worried about consequences, trying to do things right, Homer's taking naps. He's not evil. He's not even lazy in the villainous sense. He's just fundamentally uninterested in effort. King-size Homer makes it even clearer. Homer gains 60 pounds specifically to qualify for disability so he can work from home. He'll destroy his own body to avoid commuting. That's not laziness. That's dedication to avoiding dedication. But it's not just work. It's everything. In every situation where Homer could step up, could try harder, could be better, he finds the path of least resistance. When Bart needs help with homework, Homer either ignores it or makes it worse. When Lisa needs emotional support, he changes the subject. When Marge asks him to be present, he's at Moe's. The bar isn't just where he drinks, it's where he hides from everything that might require him to grow. You see it again in the way he parents, that "why you little" moment where he strangles Bart. It's played for laughs, but look closer. Homer doesn't know how to discipline his kids, doesn't know how to connect with them, so he defaults to physical comedy violence. It's easier than having an actual conversation, easier than figuring out what Bart needs, easier than admitting he has no idea what he's doing as a father. The crayon lodged in his brain, revealed in Homer, takes it even further. Homer had a chance at intelligence, at being someone who could actually understand the world around him, and his brain literally rejected it. Or maybe he chose it. Either way, Homer's been walking around with an actual physical barrier to growth shoved up his nose. That's not just a sight gag. That's his entire approach to life made literal. These episodes show us how Homer avoids growing up. It's not that he says no to responsibility. It's that he's terrified of what failure might mean. If he tries and fails, that's devastating. If he never really tries, then the failure doesn't count. So he hides behind his beer, his couch, his convenient stupidity. He keeps pushing forward even when he's not getting it right, just to avoid the fear that maybe he's not cut out for this whole adult thing. And for years, it works. The plant doesn't explode, the family stays fed, Springfield keeps running. Until it doesn't. That's what makes Homer's real moments of growth so powerful. When he finally steps up, we understand the weight of that change. It means he's faced his fear. It means he heard that nagging voice telling him to stay comfortable, but kept going anyway. For Homer, the hardest part won't be doing something brave or difficult. It'll be believing he's capable of it in the first place. Homer has a way of avoiding responsibility. Whether it's sleeping through another shift or drowning his problems in Duff, it's not that he says no, but he's just not sure he's capable of what's being asked. But what if someone saw more in him? Someone who could help him see that potential, even when he doesn't believe it himself. That's where Marge comes in. When everything starts to feel off, when work's too much, the bar's too loud, and even your own kids are calling you a disappointment, what do? If you're Homer, you stumble home to the one person who still believes in you. Even the most hopeless husband needs someone to look up to. Not a boss giving orders, not drinking buddies who just enable everything. He needs someone who pushes him, who shows him there's more to life than work and beer. Someone who makes him want to be better. That someone is Marge Simpson. Marge isn't your typical sitcom wife. She's not just nagging in the background or rolling her eyes at Homer's antics for the laugh track. She's a woman from a good family who chose this man, this life, knowing exactly what she was signing up for. She's seen him at his worst and still wakes up next to him every day. In the early seasons, you get the sense that Marge sees something in Homer that no one else does. Not potential in the career sense, just basic human worth. And somehow, that's enough to keep her there. Their first real moment together comes in The Way We Was, Season 2, Episode 12. It's awkward as hell. Homer's trying to impress this smart, beautiful girl who's way out of his league. He takes her to prom, fights for her honor, and somehow, impossibly, she chooses him. Not because he's impressive or successful or even particularly bright, but because when it mattered, he showed up. And Marge has spent the next 30 years holding on to that memory every time Homer disappoints her, which is often. Life on the Fast Lane, Season 1, Episode 9, takes it further. Homer gives Marge a bowling ball for her birthday, with his name on it. It's so perfectly Homer, so thoughtlessly selfish, that Marge almost has an affair? She meets a French bowling instructor who pays attention to her, who makes her feel seen, and she gets close. Really close. But at the last moment, she chooses Homer, not because he's earned it, because she still believes he can. What makes Marge different is how she challenges Homer without crushing him. She doesn't pretend his failures don't exist. She doesn't enable his laziness or laugh off his mistakes like they don't matter. But she also doesn't treat him like he's hopeless. Colonel Homer, Season 3, Episode 20, shows this perfectly. Homer becomes a country music manager, spends all his time with a beautiful singer, and Marge has every reason to think he's cheating. But instead of exploding, she waits. She trusts that somewhere under the stupidity, Homer knows what matters. And he does. He comes home. He always comes home. But Marge isn't perfect. She gets frustrated. In Homer Alone, Season 3, Episode 15, she has a complete breakdown. The stress of managing Homer and 3 kids while maintaining the house and her own sanity finally breaks her. She checks into a spa and leaves them all behind. And Homer, left alone with the kids, realizes for maybe the first time how much work Marge actually does, how much she carries, how much he's failed to notice. That balances everything. Marge expects more from Homer but accepts who he is. She wants him to try, to think before he acts, to grow up a little without losing the goofy sweetness that made her fall for him in the first place. With Mr. Burns, Homer's just labor. With Barney and the guys at Moe's, he's the funny one. But with Marge, he's the underdog. The apprentice trying to figure out how to be a husband, a father, a man, and sometimes that means failing. A lot. What makes this relationship work is that it never slips into the cliché, patient wife and bumbling husband dynamic completely. Marge gets angry. She kicks him out. She questions her choices. In Secrets of a Successful Marriage, Season 5, Episode 22, Homer teaches an adult education class and shares intimate details about their marriage to keep the students interested. When Marge finds out, she's devastated. Not just embarrassed, hurt. Because Homer violated the one thing that made their relationship work, trust. And for a while, she can't forgive that. She makes him live in Bart's treehouse, forces him to understand that actions have consequences, even for him. But here's the thing. Homer listens. Not always right away, not without making it worse first, but he listens. Because somewhere inside, he knows he's not done growing, not even close. Marge doesn't give him the answers. She gives him the space to figure them out. And that's how real mentorship is done. If you're enjoying this, give it a quick like and maybe subscribe. Helps a ton. Homer's comfortable world was perfectly arranged. His spot on the couch, his regular stool at Moe's, his parking space at Sector 7G, and Marge's predictable size. For him, routine wasn't a prison, it was safety. Everything shifts in those rare moments when Homer can't hide behind laziness anymore, when the stakes get real and someone needs to act. The Simpsons movie throws all of this into sharp focus. Springfield's getting destroyed, and it's Homer's fault. He dumped a silo full of pig waste into the lake, the EPA puts a dome over the entire town, and suddenly everyone wants him dead. Not just annoyed, not just disappointed. They literally want to kill him. The family escapes to Alaska, and for a while, Homer thinks maybe this is better. No responsibilities, no angry mobs, just fishing and living off the land like he always talked about wanting to do. But then Marge takes the kids and leaves him. She records a video message saying she doesn't want to be married to him anymore. And for the first time, Homer can't avoid it. He can't joke his way out. He can't fix it with a grand gesture or a stupid scheme. He has to actually change. So what does he do? He goes back. Not because he knows it'll work, not because he has a plan, but because his family needs him, and he's too dumb to understand that going back probably means dying. He climbs the dome, risks everything, and ultimately saves Springfield by throwing a bomb through a hole at the top. It's not skill or intelligence that saves the day. It's the fact that Homer Simpson refuses to quit when someone he loves is in danger. But the movie isn't the only time Homer crosses this line. Bart the Daredevil, Season 2, Episode 8, does it too. Bart wants to jump Springfield Gorge on his skateboard, and Homer, for once, puts his foot down. He forbids it, tries to be a real parent. But Bart's going to do it anyway, so Homer makes a choice. He'll jump the gorge himself to show Bart how dangerous it is. And he does. And he fails. Spectacularly. He crashes, tumbles down the gorge, gets airlifted to a hospital, and crashes again on the way there. It's played for laughs. But underneath the cartoon violence is something real. Homer was willing to break every bone in his body if it meant keeping Bart safe. Homer the Heretic, Season 4, Episode 3, goes even deeper. Homer stops going to church, decides he's going to worship in his own way, and for a while, it's paradise. Sleeping in on Sundays, watching football, eating the perfect sandwich. God even appears in his dream and seems cool with it. But then his house catches fire. Homer's trapped inside, and it's his religious neighbors, the ones he mocked and dismissed, who save him. Ned Flanders runs into a burning building for a man who's been nothing but cruel to him. And Homer learns something without anyone having to say it out loud. Being part of a community means showing up, even when it's inconvenient. These moments matter because they show Homer leaving his comfort zone, not by choice, but by necessity. Out there, things get real. Real danger, real consequences, real chances of losing everything. And Homer, despite being a coward in most situations, finds something when his family's on the line. Not courage exactly, just an inability to imagine a world where he doesn't at least try. This journey isn't just about physical distance, it's about leaving behind the old Homer, the one who avoided everything hard without questioning whether there might be another way. By the time the dome comes down and Springfield forgives him, again, that version of him is gone. He didn't become smarter or stronger, he just finally owns who he is. Stupid, selfish, but ultimately unable to let the people he loves suffer if there's anything he can do about it. That's what gets him through. When he gets back home after saving Springfield, something's just different. The couch doesn't feel quite the same. The plant isn't as comfortable. He's still Homer, still lazy, still screwing up constantly, but now he knows he can handle more than he thought. And in later episodes, you can tell he faces things with a little more willingness to try, a little less assuming someone else will fix it. Homer's faced some real challenges and somehow stumbled through them. He's taken risks, saved the day barely, and changed how people view him, or at least survived long enough for them to forget why they were mad. But now, he's up against something different. Not disasters or domes, but the people around him. The ones who test him daily, who keep him grounded or drive him crazy, and sometimes both at once. This part of Homer's journey is different. Things don't get louder, they get heavier. The laughs still come, But the stakes are higher. The episodes grow sharper, more personal. Let's be real, Homer doesn't face typical villains. Instead, he faces stressors, people who push all the right buttons and challenge his sense of self. These aren't evil masterminds. They're the everyday pressures that make Homer question who he is and what he stands for. Mr. Burns is the obvious one. He doesn't even know Homer's name half the time, calls him Simpson if he's feeling generous, or just points and grunts. Burns represents everything wrong with the system Homer's trapped in. Underpaid, overworked, completely disposable. Burns would let Springfield melt down if it cost him a nickel to prevent it. And Homer just keeps showing up, keeps taking it, because what else is he gonna do? He's got 3 kids, a mortgage, and no other skills. Burns doesn't have power over Homer because he's scary. He has power because Homer needs that paycheck. Then there's Frank Grimes. Homer's enemy isn't about a villain trying to destroy Homer. It's about a man who worked hard his entire life, earned nothing, and watches Homer bumble through existence collecting rewards he doesn't deserve. Grimes sees the unfairness of it all and it destroys him. Literally. He electrocutes himself, mimicking Homer's incompetence, and even at his funeral, Homer falls asleep and makes it about himself. That episode is dark as hell when you really think about it, because Grimes is right. Homer doesn't deserve what he has. He just has it. And that's the kind of thing that makes you question everything about fairness, effort, and whether any of it matters. Ned Flanders might be the most complicated relationship Homer has outside his family. Ned is everything Homer isn't. Successful, faithful, fit, patient, kind to everyone including Homer, who treats him like garbage. The jealousy Homer feels toward Ned isn't really about Ned. It's about Homer seeing what he could be if he tried and hating the reminder. When Homer loves Flanders happens and they briefly become friends, Homer can't handle it. Being Ned's friend means acknowledging Ned's goodness, and that makes Homer's laziness harder to ignore. But here's the thing. Homer's not alone in this. Without his allies, he wouldn't make it through a single day. Marge is still there, still the anchor, but the kids play their part too. Bart mirrors Homer's stupidity, but he also needs Homer to be better. Every time Homer fails Bart, you see it land. The hurt, the disappointment, the fear that this is what fathers are. And sometimes, not often, but sometimes, Homer catches it, sees what he's doing to his son, and tries to correct course. Lisa challenges Homer in a different way. She's smarter than him, knows it, and Homer knows it too. In Lisa's Substitute Season 2, Episode 19, Lisa's beloved teacher gets replaced, and she's heartbroken. She turns to everyone for comfort and keeps getting let down. Finally, she tries Homer, expecting nothing. And Homer, in a rare moment of clarity, just tells her he loves her. No jokes, no distractions, just honesty. It's not much, but it's what Lisa needed. For once, Homer didn't make it worse. Maggie's different. She doesn't talk, doesn't demand, just exists as this pure thing that loves Homer unconditionally. In And Maggie Makes 3, Season 6, Episode 13, we learn Homer had actually escaped the power plant, was working at a bowling alley, living his dream. Then Marge got pregnant with Maggie. Homer had to go crawling back to Burns, take his old job, accept defeat. And you'd think he'd resent Maggie for that. But instead, he puts her baby pictures over a plaque Burns gave him that says, "Don't forget, you're here forever." The photos cover certain letters. Now it says, "Do it for her." That's Homer at his best. Not smart, not successful, but aware that some things matter more than happiness. Then there's his drinking buddies. Lenny and Carl actually care about Homer, show up when he needs them, but they also enable every bad decision he makes. Barney's the cautionary tale, the friend who took everything Homer does and pushed it 10% further until it destroyed his life. When Barney gets sober in later seasons, there's this weird tension. Homer's happy for him, but also threatened by it. Because if Barney can change, what's Homer's excuse? Here's the tough part. Homer's world doesn't always reward him for trying. He gets mocked, disappointed, taken advantage of. He gives everything he has to people who don't always appreciate it. But he doesn't stop. Most people would give up. Most people would become bitter. But not Homer. He keeps going. And that's what makes this part of his journey important. It's not about winning. It's about holding on to who you are. Despite all the setbacks, despite people trying to bring him down, Despite proof that he's not good enough, Homer never completely loses himself. Every challenge wears him down, but he always finds a way to keep going. Not because he's perfect, but because he's too dumb to understand when he should quit. And maybe that's not weakness. Maybe that's strength. Homer faces his toughest tests yet. Not the villains or disasters, but the creeping doubts that make him question his worth. The real battle isn't external, it's the quiet collapse inside. But he doesn't give up. Even when he feels overlooked, forgotten, or inadequate, he keeps showing up, choosing to stay true to who he is. Or at least trying to. By now, Homer's been through it all. Nuclear meltdowns, mob justice, his own stupidity nearly killing everyone he loves, and somehow Springfield's still standing. Through it all, he's managed to keep his optimism alive, or at least his ignorance. But even the dumbest characters eventually hit a breaking point. And that's exactly where Homer is now, facing a quiet kind of collapse, the kind that comes before everything changes. This isn't your typical Homer adventure. There's no sideshow Bob, no evil scheme from Burns, no dramatic explosion to signal danger. Instead, it starts with something small, almost easy to overlook. A comment, a look, a realization that maybe, just maybe, he doesn't actually deserve what he has. Homer, Season 12, Episode 9, takes this further than any episode before it. Homer's at a science museum with the family, and he can't understand anything. Not in the usual Homer way where he's too lazy to pay attention. He genuinely cannot process what he's seeing. They discover a crayon lodged in his brain, shoved up his nose as a child. They remove it, and suddenly Homer's a genius. He understands art, science, literature. He can hold conversations with Lisa about things that actually matter. And for a brief moment, he's everything he could have been. But here's the thing. Smart Homer is miserable. He sees how stupid everyone around him is, how pointless most of life is, how much he's wasted. And worse, no one likes him anymore. Marge misses dumb Homer. The guys at work can't relate to him. Even Lisa, who always wanted a father she could connect with intellectually, finds smart Homer kind of insufferable. So Homer makes a choice. He shoves the crayon back in, chooses stupidity over intelligence, comfort over growth. And you can read it two ways. Either Homer's taking the easy way out again, avoiding the challenge of being smart because it's hard, or Homer's making the most mature decision of his life, accepting who he is and choosing the relationships that matter over the person he could be. Either way, it's devastating. Because it means Homer knows. On some level, he knows he's choosing this. The ignorance isn't just happening to him, it's his armor. Then there's episodes where his family genuinely questions whether he's worth the effort. In Break My Wife, Please, the family literally stages an intervention. They tell Homer he's ruining their lives, that his laziness and selfishness have gone too far, and Homer, instead of defending himself, just sits there and takes it. Because he knows they're right. He can't argue with them, can't joke his way out. They're saying what he's thought in his darkest moments, but never wanted to admit. The weight gain episodes hit differently when you look at them as a pattern. King-size Homer is funny until you realize Homer's physically destroying himself to avoid minor inconvenience. His body becomes a manifestation of giving up. Every pound is another day of choosing easy over effort. And later seasons don't shy away from it. There are episodes where Homer literally cannot do things because of his weight, where his health becomes a real concern, where Marge looks at him with something close to contempt. Not anger, just tired disappointment. When Marge gets embarrassed by him in scenes from the class struggle in Springfield, Season 7, Episode 14, there's this moment where you see it land. She's trying to fit in with wealthy women at a country club, and Homer shows up being Homer. Loud, crude, oblivious. And for once, Marge doesn't find it endearing. She's mortified. She tries to hide him, to minimize his presence. And Homer knows. You can see it in his face. The woman who always defended him is ashamed. And what can he say? She's right to be. These aren't challenges he can just solve with a stupid scheme or a lucky break. They're quiet, growing doubts. Does he still matter? Is being who he is enough? What happens when even the people who love him start to wonder if he's worth the effort? This is the cave, not a physical place, but somewhere inside him. It's the spot where the doubts settle in, where the confidence he never really had starts to feel even more hollow. But here's the thing that matters. He doesn't quit. even when he's at his lowest, when his thoughts turn against him, when the people he cares about question him, and when everything tells him to just give up, he doesn't lose who he is completely. He doubts, he hurts, he pulls back, but he doesn't stop trying. That's the heart of Homer's story. His biggest battle wasn't with anyone else. It was with himself. It's about staying soft in a world that punishes softness, staying simple when everyone expects more, staying true to himself even when he's not sure that self is worth being. This part of the journey isn't loud. It's quiet, reflective, messy, but it's the one that matters the most. It shows us a side of the hero we usually skip over. The exhaustion before the next big push. The place where who you are is tested not by anyone else, but by the feeling that maybe you're not enough. Homer doesn't come out of his slump with a big speech or a flashy moment. He does it by getting back up, by going back to work, by just showing up. Maybe real strength isn't about never breaking. Maybe it's about learning how to pull yourself back together, little by little, one duff at a time. Homer's biggest challenge isn't a villain or a disaster. It's the quiet doubts that start to shake whatever confidence he has left. What happens when he starts questioning whether his family would be better off without him? Whether Springfield would even notice if he disappeared? Whether the last 30 years have been a complete waste? That's when everything truly falls apart. Homer has been through a lot. He's been accused of harassment, lost jobs, gained and lost weight, disappointed everyone around him more times than anyone's counting. Despite all this, he's always kept stumbling forward, driven by his routine, Marge's patience, and the belief that if he just doesn't think about it, everything will work out. Then the bottom drops out. For real this time. The Simpsons movie is where it all comes together, or falls apart, depending on how you look at it. Springfield's dying because Homer dumped pig waste in the lake. The EPA seals the town in a giant dome. The family escapes to Alaska, and for a hot minute, things are almost okay. Fresh start, no consequences, just fishing and living simple. But Marge finds that video she recorded before they left. The one where she says she's not sure she wants to be married to him anymore. She watches it, realizes she meant it, takes the kids and leaves him alone in Alaska with nothing but a dog and his own stupidity to keep him company. That moment where Homer watches them drive away might be the most devastating thing the show's ever done. There's no joke, no punchline, just a man realizing he's lost everything that mattered, and it's entirely his fault. He can't blame Burns, can't blame bad luck, can't blame Springfield for being ridiculous. This time, it's just him, his selfishness, his laziness, his complete inability to think about consequences. And, for once, Marge isn't there to forgive him. She's done. But here's what makes it an ordeal instead of just another low point. Homer goes back anyway. Not because he knows it'll work, not because Marge asked him to, but because Springfield needs someone to save them, and he's the idiot who caused the problem in the first place. He climbs that dome, faces down an angry mob that literally wants him dead, and risks everything to fix what he broke. It doesn't matter that he shouldn't be the hero. He's the only one there. Before the movie, we get glimpses of this darkness in other episodes. Secrets of a Successful Marriage, Season 5, Episode 22, hits hard. Homer teaches a class at the Adult Learning Annex and has nothing to teach, so he starts sharing intimate details about his marriage to keep students interested. Personal things, private things, the stuff Marge told him in confidence. When she finds out, she kicks him out. Not overnight, not for a few days. She makes him live in Bart's treehouse and genuinely questions whether their marriage can survive this betrayal. Homer doesn't get it at first. He thinks she's overreacting, thinks she'll forgive him like always. But Marge doesn't budge. She tells him trust is all they have, that without it, there's nothing keeping them together. And Homer, for maybe the first time, understands what he's done. Not just made a mistake, broken something fundamental. The episode ends with them back together, but barely. Marge makes him promise to never share her secrets again, and you get the sense that this was the closest they've come to actually ending it. A Millhouse Divided, Season 8, Episode 6 does something similar. Kirk and Luan Van Houten get divorced, and suddenly divorce is in the air. Everyone at the party starts questioning their own marriages. Marge looks at Homer, really looks at him, and you can see her doing the math. Is this worth it? Is he worth it? Homer panics and throws an elaborate remarriage proposal at her, all flash and desperation. And Marge says yes, but there's a hesitation there, a moment where it could have gone either way. There are episodes where Bart actively chooses someone else over Homer. Brother from the Same Planet, Season 4, Episode 14, Bart gets a bigger brother through a mentorship program because Homer keeps forgetting to pick him up from soccer practice. And the bigger brother is everything Homer isn't. Present, interested, fun in a functional way. Bart loves him, chooses him over Homer repeatedly, and Homer's replaced. That easily, that quickly. It's played for laughs, but underneath is this real fear. What if Homer's not actually necessary? What if anyone could do what he does, and probably better? This isn't just about external failure anymore. It's about everything losing its meaning. Homer realizes that all his effort, his love, his loyalty, his belief that showing up is enough, might not be enough to fix anything. That being himself might be the problem. That maybe everyone would actually be better off if he just wasn't there. And still, he doesn't give up. Instead, he does the unthinkable. He tries, actually tries. Not with some stupid scheme or grand gesture, but with genuine effort. In the movie, he doesn't joke around. He doesn't take shortcuts. He climbs that dome because his family needs him, and even if Marge never forgives him, even if Springfield hates him forever, he has to try. What matters isn't all the craziness or the cartoon physics. It's what Homer doesn't do. He doesn't run. He doesn't hide. He doesn't choose easy. This is the moment when everything falls apart. Homer has tried everything, given what passes for his all, and still, it feels like he's come up short. This point, most heroes would be ready to quit. But not Homer. Instead of giving in to despair, he does the unexpected. He keeps going. When the world seems to be ending, he holds on to what makes him who he is. His dumb, stubborn refusal to understand when he's beaten. That's the real test. It's not just about fighting back or winning. It's about holding on to what makes you who you are, even when everything is pushing you to give up. Even when giving up would make sense. Even when you've earned the right to walk away. Homer's faced countless setbacks, but what happens when everything he's worked for crumbles and he has to rebuild from nothing? You'd think that after everything Homer's been through, facing near death, his family's hatred, and Springfield wanting him gone, there'd be some reward. Maybe respect, an apology, or just one day without disaster. But that's not how Homer's world works. Instead of recognition, something quieter happens, something that matters more. Instead of a grand celebration, life just goes back to normal. The plant still runs. Mose still pours Duff. The couch still has his imprint worn into the fabric. Homer's not the same after everything he's been through. But the reward isn't applause or a parade. The reward is something quieter. The understanding that he's enough, just as he is. And Maggie Makes 3, Season 6, Episode 13. This is it. This is the episode that shows what Homer's life actually means. We get the backstory. Homer hated working at the power plant so much he quit. Got a job at Barney's Bowlerama. Minimal pay, but it was his dream. Just bowling. Being around something he loved, none of Burns' soul-crushing corporate hell. He was happy, genuinely happy, for maybe the first time in his adult life. Then Marge gets pregnant with Maggie. Unexpected, unplanned, and suddenly Homer's dream is over. He has to go crawling back to Burns, beg for his old job back, accept a plaque that says, "Don't forget, you're here forever," hung right where he can see it every day. It's the most depressing thing the show's ever done. Homer's literally staring at a reminder that he's trapped, that he gave up everything that made him happy, that this is it for the rest of his life. But here's the thing that makes it a reward instead of just another tragedy. Homer takes pictures of Maggie and arranges them around the plaque. They cover certain letters. Don't forget, you're here forever becomes do it for her. And that's when you understand. Homer didn't lose his dream. He found something worth giving it up for. The job doesn't make him happy, but Maggie does. The sacrifice wasn't meaningless. It was love made literal. Lisa's Substitute Season 2, Episode 19, does something similar. Lisa's beloved teacher, Mr. Bergstrom, leaves, and Lisa's devastated. She's looking for someone to understand her, to value her intelligence, to see her. She tries Marge, but Marge is overwhelmed with Bart's chaos. She tries everyone and gets nothing. Finally, angry and hurt, she tells Homer he's a baboon. She doesn't mean it as a joke, she means it. And Homer, who usually deflects or gets defensive, just stops. He sits down with her, and for once, he doesn't try to be funny or fix it or change the subject. He just tells her the truth. He might not understand her, might not be able to give her what Mr. Bergstrom gave her, but he's her dad, and he loves her. That's it. No grand speech, no elaborate gesture, just honesty. And it's exactly what Lisa needed. Not someone brilliant, just someone present. These moments keep happening in small ways throughout the series. Bart the Genius, Season 1, when Bart's pretending to be smart and Homer doesn't understand what's happening but supports him anyway. Homer's Night Out, when Bart catches him dancing with a stripper and Homer has to explain to his son what respect actually means. The times when Homer makes Marge genuinely laugh, not at him but with him, and you see why she stays. Even at work, there's a weird kind of redemption. Homer Simpson vs. the 18th Amendment shows Homer as the town's beer baron during Prohibition, successfully outsmarting the police and keeping Springfield drunk. He's not supposed to be competent, but when it's something he cares about, when it's for his community, he finds a way. The plant needs him too, even if Burns doesn't know it. Homer's chaos somehow keeps everything running. Remove him, and the whole system would probably collapse in a different, worse way. The magic isn't in Homer becoming someone else. It's in Homer realizing he doesn't have to. The photo arrangement covering Don't Forget You're Here Forever isn't about making the best of a bad situation. It's about understanding that worth doesn't come from success or happiness or freedom. It comes from showing up for the people who need you, even when it costs you everything you wanted. None of this gets him Employee of the Month. He doesn't get Father of the Year. When he dies, there probably won't be a statue. What Homer walks away with, though, is more valuable than any of that. Peace. Not happiness exactly, just the understanding that he's doing what he's supposed to be doing, even if it's hard, even if it hurts, even if no one notices. It was never about being smart or successful or even particularly good at anything. What Homer gains isn't a trophy or praise, but something deeper. The solid understanding that love, effort, and showing up still matter, even if the world forgets to acknowledge them. Homer doesn't win by changing who he is. He wins by accepting who he is. And the plant settles back into its usual chaos, with Homer sleeping at his console, and somehow, impossibly, Springfield keeps running. For Homer, the reward isn't recognition. It's knowing he's exactly where he's meant to be. That was a lot. If you've made it this far, you're clearly in it. So, why not stick around, hit subscribe? Let's keep going. Homer's reward isn't recognition, but it's knowing he's enough as he is. This quiet confidence shows when he simply shows up, stays true to himself, and finds peace in the everyday moments. But coming home is harder than leaving. You've changed. Springfield hasn't. And now what? When the disasters are over, when the family's safe, when Springfield rebuilds, and the power plant starts humming again like none of it ever happened, Homer returns to Sector 7G. At first glance, nothing's changed. He wakes up on his couch, stumbles to the plant in that same white shirt, drinks at Moe's, fights with Bart. Same old Springfield, but Homer's not the same. He doesn't walk in like a hero. There's no parade. No one mentions his journey. No one really knows what he went through. And that's kind of the point. Here's the truth nobody wants to admit. Coming back is harder than leaving. You've changed. They haven't. You've seen things, learned things, faced parts of yourself you didn't know existed. But everyone else just wants you to be who you were, because that's who they know how to deal with. For Homer, that tension is everywhere. He's still the same guy on the surface. Still says dough, still strangles Bart when frustrated, still drinks too much and sleeps through work. But something underneath has shifted. Think about it. Homer saved Springfield after being the one who nearly destroyed it. Climbed a dome, faced down an angry mob, chose his family over safety. And Monday morning, he's back at his console in Sector 7G like none of it happened. Mr. Burns doesn't know, doesn't care. The guys at work might have heard something, but it's already old news. Life just moves on, and Homer moves with it. This is where stories get real. Homer has to make one last choice that proves everything wasn't for nothing. Springfield tries to pull him back to who he used to be, The complete buffoon they can dismiss and mock and rely on to screw things up entertainingly. But he can't go back. Not really. And that's the whole point. The clash between the old Homer and who he's become creates this weird tension throughout later seasons. You see it in how he handles problems differently. Lost Our Lisa, Season 9, Episode 24, Lisa wants to go to a museum alone. Old Homer would have said no without thinking, or said yes without thinking and caused chaos. But this Homer actually considers it. He's scared, makes mistakes trying to find her when she gets lost, but ultimately trusts that she can handle herself. It's growth hidden inside the usual stupidity. Homer the Vigilante, Season 5, Episode 11, shows a different side. There's a cat burglar stealing from Springfield, and Homer organizes a neighborhood watch that quickly becomes a mob. But when things get out of hand, when people want to take justice too far, Homer's the one who pulls back. Not because he's suddenly moral, but because he's learned that letting anger drive your choices doesn't fix anything. It's subtle, buried under sight gags and slapstick, but it's there. Look, we all know this feeling, right? That moment when you come out the other side of something tough, and suddenly, the small stuff just doesn't hit the same way. You're still you, but with deeper roots. That's Homer now. The job still sucks, Burns still doesn't appreciate him, the house still needs repairs he's not qualified to do. But he handles it with something that looks almost like calm, not peace, just the understanding that freaking out doesn't help. He's still stupid, but there's a quality to the stupidity now. He causes chaos and then actually helps clean it up instead of just walking away. When Marge is stressed, he notices more often. When Bart needs him, he shows up more consistently. When Lisa's disappointed, it bothers him in a way it didn't used to. The changes are small, easy to miss, but they're there. Even the way he relates to Ned Flanders shifts. The jealousy is still there, the rivalry, the fundamental annoyance at having such a good person next door making him look worse by comparison. But there are episodes in later seasons where Homer genuinely helps Ned, where the mockery has less bite, where you get the sense that Homer actually values having Ned around. Not as a friend exactly, but as a part of Springfield that matters. The couch gag at the beginning of every episode becomes almost metaphorical. No matter what happens, no matter how the family gets to the couch, they always end up there. Together, changed but constant. Homer's spot is waiting for him. Same indent, same routine, but the person sitting there has more weight to him now. So yeah, he's back in Springfield. Same house, same job. But this isn't just Homer returning to his old life. This is Homer bringing something back with him. Not wisdom exactly. Homer's not wise, just experience. The understanding that he's been tested and didn't completely fail. That when it mattered most, he chose right. And that has to count for something, even if no one else knows about it. And honestly, that's the whole point of growth in the first place. It's not about becoming someone new, it's about bringing the best parts of who you could be back into the life you actually have. Homer is making sure that no matter how weird or wild the world gets, there's at least one place where heart still lives. And that place, more often than not, starts with him. Homer comes back home a little different, more self-aware beneath the stupidity. When trouble hits, he steps up. Not for recognition, but because it's what he does. His real strength comes from staying true to himself, no matter what's going on around him. But nothing stays calm for long. The road back isn't the end. It's just the deep breath before whatever comes next. And what comes next will test everything he's learned about who he is. If you're liking this so far, then don't forget to hit the like button. It really helps. There's a calm that settles in once you've proven yourself not just capable, but constant. Homer returns with that calm. His shirt fits different now. His smile is quieter, but no less real. The world spins as it always has, and Homer spins with it, more grounded than before. But nothing stays calm for long. The road back isn't the end. It's just the deep breath before whatever comes next. Mother Simpson, Season 7, Episode 8, might be the most mature thing the show ever did. Homer's mother Mona shows up after decades of being gone. She's a fugitive, on the run from the law for something she did in the 60s. And for a while, Homer gets to have a mom again, gets to experience what it's like to be cared for by the person who should have been there all along. But she has to leave again. The law catches up. And Homer, instead of chasing her or begging her to stay or throwing a tantrum, just sits on his car and watches the stars. Silent, processing, understanding that some losses you just have to carry. This isn't the same Homer who would have made it about himself, who would have guilted her or caused chaos. This is someone who's learned that love sometimes means letting go, that being a parent, being a child, being a person, means accepting that you can't control everything. The episode ends without a joke, just Homer, alone, staring up at the sky. And it's devastating in a way the show rarely attempts. One fish, two fish, blowfish, bluefish, Season 2, Episode 11, goes even further. Homer eats poisonous blowfish at a sushi restaurant and is told he has 24 hours to live. And instead of panicking the whole time or wasting it on something stupid, Homer tries to do everything right. He makes a list, listens to Lisa play saxophone, makes amends with his father, tells Marge he loves her. It's not perfect. He's still Homer. He gets distracted, messes things up, but the effort is there. The intention is real. When he falls asleep thinking he's dying and wakes up fine the next morning, it's not played as, haha, Homer wasted his last day for nothing. It's more like Homer got a practice run at death and actually handled it with something close to grace. He learned what matters when you think everything's ending. And even though he doesn't die, that knowledge stays with him. The Simpsons movie gave us the big moment, the obvious sacrifice. Homer going back to Springfield to save them after they wanted him dead. But there are smaller moments throughout the series that show the same thing. Times when Homer chooses family over himself without thinking about it, because it's just what you do. In Brother from the Same Planet, after Bart gets that bigger brother and Homer feels replaced, Homer could have gotten angry or petty. Instead, he realizes he's failed Bart, acknowledges it, gets his own little brother through the program, and genuinely tries to be better. It doesn't solve everything, but it's Homer recognizing his failure and attempting to grow from it. There are episodes where he helps Flanders despite their rivalry, where he saves Mr. Burns, despite Burns treating him like garbage for decades, where he puts Springfield's needs above his own comfort repeatedly, not because he's suddenly selfless, but because Homer's core has always been this weird sense of community responsibility buried under layers of laziness. This isn't the same Homer who choked on convenience store food and needed Apu to Heimlich him. This isn't the guy who got a crayon stuck in his brain and left it there. This is someone who understands that being good isn't about being smart or capable. It's about showing up when people need you, even if you're scared, even if you'll probably screw it up, even if no one will remember or appreciate it. That's the final test on the road back. Not to fight some villain, not to win some grand victory, but to offer yourself without knowing what you'll get in return. To choose sacrifice without expecting reward. To understand that being a hero doesn't mean being exceptional. It means being present. And it doesn't end with big explosions or cheers. It ends with Homer back at the plant, back at the grill, back to Moe's and the couch and the same stupid arguments with Bart. But now, he carries something inside him that can't be shaken. He knows who he is. He's the guy who stepped up, who took the risk, who kept going, not to be called a hero, but because someone had to. That quiet strength, that's what the road back is all about. Look, Homer's story isn't about some magical transformation. Strip away the cartoon nonsense, and it's about someone who refuses to become bitter in a world that rewards cynicism. His heart isn't some cute character trait. It's radical. It comes with a price tag, and he pays it without really understanding what he's doing. That's who walks away from these tests. Not a genius, not a model citizen, just someone who finally understands what matters. So yeah, he's earned every stupid couch gag, every ridiculous dough, every moment of grace that follows. Because in a world that begs you to be selfish, to look out for number one, to take the easy way, he stayed soft. And that's not stupidity. That's the hardest thing there is. Homer comes back home, and at first, everything seems the same. His house, his job, his family. But he's different now in ways that don't show on the surface. He's not trying to prove anything, just showing up with a quiet acceptance of who he is. Life's still chaotic, but he's learned to face it with stubbornness and love. even when the world around him hasn't changed at all. Homer doesn't end his story with a promotion or a mansion or a statue in the town square. He ends it back where it all began. Let's be honest, that's not how heroes are supposed to finish, right? We expect growth, change, maybe a spin-off where he's finally competent. Instead, he's in his same house, eating the same donuts, sitting on the same couch. Nothing looks different, but everything is. Because after all the chaos, the near deaths, the disasters, the towns, hatred and forgiveness and hatred again, Homer came back with something no promotion could create. Not respect, not intelligence, just a stubborn insistence on remaining human. And isn't that the point? The road back was never about coming home to fanfare. It was about coming home to yourself. The kind of self that doesn't need recognition, that doesn't care if the world rolls its eyes, that knows deep down that showing up and trying matters, even when you fail more than you succeed. What does Homer represent to Springfield? He's the heart of it, whether they realize it or not. The town runs on people like him. Not the successful ones, not the smart ones, but the ones who show up day after day despite having every reason not to. The ones who absorb punishment and keep going. The ones who love imperfectly but consistently. Mo cares about him, even though Mo would never admit it. In Dumbbell Indemnity, Season 9, Episode 12, Mo asks Homer to help him commit insurance fraud, and when it goes wrong, Homer goes to prison for him. It's stupid and illegal, and Homer should absolutely say no, but he does it because Mo needs help, and that's what friends do. Later, Mo has to choose between money and friendship, and surprisingly, he picks Homer. Their relationship is toxic in a lot of ways, but underneath is genuine affection. Mr. Burns doesn't fire Homer because chaos needs its center. The plant would probably run more efficiently without him, but it would also lose something. Burns needs Homer to feel superior to mock, to use as an example of everything wrong with the working class. But also, somewhere deep down, Burns knows Homer's loyal in a way that's increasingly rare. Homer won't quit, won't leave, will keep showing up no matter how badly he's treated. And in Burns' twisted way, that matters. The kids understand him better as the series goes on. Bart stops seeing Homer as just an obstacle and starts seeing him as a person. Flawed, disappointing sometimes, but trying. Lisa's relationship with Homer becomes less about her wishing he were different and more about accepting who he is, while still pushing him to be slightly better. They grow around him, shaped by his presence in ways they won't understand until they're adults themselves. Even Ned Flanders, after everything, after all the boundary violations and the borrowed tools never returned and the constant mockery, still considers Homer something like a friend. When Ned's wife Maude dies in later seasons, Homer's one of the people there for him. Not with the right words or helpful advice, but with presence. And sometimes, that's enough. This is what nobody tells you about heroes. They don't get parades. They make your coffee, fix your car, show up to work every day at jobs that drain them. They carry wisdom nobody notices, and choose kindness when being selfish would be easier. And that's the elixir Homer brings back to Springfield. Not just joy, but tough joy. Not just persistence, but choosing to persist even when the world gives you every reason not to. Let's get real. We've been sold this lie that shutting down is smart, that not caring is cool, that cynicism is wisdom. But Homer's journey cuts through that garbage. His soft heart isn't weakness. It's a deliberate choice made after seeing how ugly things can get. He's not teaching Springfield to avoid pain. He's showing them how to take the hit and keep going without turning bitter, how to fail spectacularly, but show up tomorrow still believing things can be okay, how to stay open in a world that rewards those who close off. And people around him shift because of it. Not dramatically, not overnight, but it's there. Barney gets sober eventually. Mo has moments of genuine emotion. Even Burns occasionally shows something almost like humanity. Springfield needs Homer because Springfield needs someone who refuses to give up on people, even when they've given up on themselves. His real legacy isn't the catchphrases or the cultural impact. It's this stubborn belief that no matter how messy life gets, it's still worth facing with your heart open. Still worth second chances. Still worth trying even when you'll probably fail. His story loops back to normal. The alarm goes off. He throws on that white shirt. He drives to the plant. But when he says dough, It means something different now. He's ready for everything. Good, bad, and the weird stuff in between. Ready to fail while staying exactly who he is. Ready to be disappointed and still show up the next day. Ready to be Homer Simpson in a world that doesn't always appreciate what that means. So, what does Homer bring back? Hope. Not the loud, flashy kind. The kind you carry in your pocket. The kind that survives nuclear meltdowns and bad decisions and mediocre beer. The kind that looks like a balding man in a white shirt who never gave up on being good enough, even when he wasn't. Not once, not ever. Because in the end, Homer Simpson teaches us something we all need to remember. You don't have to be smart to matter. You don't have to be successful to be valuable. You don't have to change who you are to deserve love. You just have to show up. Keep trying. Stay soft when the world wants you hard. And maybe, just maybe, that's enough. If you enjoyed the video, make sure to subscribe and we'll see you in the next one.